Oh, landmines and jellyfish. Welcome back to Knives, I guess. And why do you smell like hot dogs? I'm on to you. But about that Temu knife that y'all voted off. So, if you'll remember, we did Temu Geddon and we had a series of what did I get from Temu, and we wound up with 11 knives for a 10-week process of going through those Temu knives. So, we had a group conscience vote, and there was one knife that got voted off. Now, the one knife that would have gotten voted off is the one that I really wanted to do Cardboard Slayer on, so I exempted that one. But the one that wasn't exempted and got voted off was this Browning right here, and everybody hated it. And so one of the things to note, and let's take a look at this thing, is we've got a assisted opener with a liner lock. And I will say this liner lock, the way they have this protruded like this, it's easy to reach. It's easy to use. It's not a bad liner lock for a cheap knife. And I think we spent maybe somewhere around $6 for this on Temu. I'm not exactly sure. The wife went to take a look at her Temu account to see if we could get some specs on this thing. And it's discontinued. Like, you can't pull up anything on it anymore. So we do have a pocket clip that is tip up, which is a Lord's carry, and you've got some reasonably strong retention, but I'm pretty sure it would take next to nothing to bend this pocket clip way out of shape. Now, we took this to Cardboard Slayer tonight and did the live stream on it. So new rules with the live stream is I'll lay out a few knives, we'll roll the dice, and the dice will pick it out. And out of 4 knives that we had out there, this is the one the dice picked, so here we are. Or if you want to be pedantic, this is the one the die picked, but, you know, a lot of people that aren't diehard gamers won't really pick up on that, so I make it easier to process for the viewer. We went on this thing, and one of the first things to note is the cutting profile on this was quite good. It did a good job slicing. Now, you don't have a terribly thick slab of steel, but once you get out into the spear point right here where you've got that swedge ground in, it really cut nicely. It did a good job. Once you got back in here on the flat, it didn't cut as good. And yeah, there's where you see where it's ground out. So it did a really good job cutting. And of course, I expected somewhere around 2.5 to 3 hours of cutting, and then we'd see significant edge wear. This thing went for 3 hours and 45 minutes and didn't suffer significant edge wear, but there was edge wear. Like, it was still doing the push cut test on paper fairly cleanly. Like, it was still doing a good job. I didn't expect it to go that hard, especially for something we spent like $5 or $6 on. But, you know, after that time, I wound up curbing the live stream just because I was tired. I needed to use the bathroom and I wanted to grab something to eat. But we cut that at 4.5 hours. At the 3 hour and 45 minute mark, even though it wasn't super dull, I decided I wanted to strop it just to see what the strops could do to this. And the strops did good. We went for another 45 minutes, and after stropping it got it up to past factory sharp. And that made the cuts so much easier. But we stropped it yet again after we got done with the live stream after 4.5 hours. And this is what this edge do now. Let's see if I can get this cut without screwing it up. So yeah, and of course, I've got this laying flat, partially flat on a table, so it likes wandering, but yeah, it's a real easy, nice, clean cut. We can also get that on newsprint here. I haven't actually cut this stuff in a minute. I think I got one on the last one, but yeah, it's just, I'm having a hard time cutting this. The knife is still really sharp. Yeah, like the strop pulls up an insane edge. Like I'll quit talking about the strop eventually. I swear to God, guys, but I love what they're doing to this thing. And you know, I said that was 4.5 hours of nonstop cutting and shooting the breeze with you guys, and I had a lot of fun with that. I hope the guys that stuck around had fun with it. But you know, this thing again, 4.5 hours of cutting, and the ergos, even though it looks like crap, the ergos were good enough. They were significantly better than that Sativian that we just did. I don't have any blistering. I don't have any major hot spots. I've only got like one thing, every time we do this for any length of time, I get a numb spot on my thumb right here that takes about a day to wear off. I'm not sure what that is exactly, but that's the only thing that happened. Like everything else, my hand is just fine. I need lotion, but that's a different story entirely. So, yeah, I'm a little impressed by this thing. I can't really argue with the performance. We don't know what kind of steel it is because we couldn't get the specs off Temu. So we're just like spitball in the dark, maybe 9 CR. But this is kind of again where, one of the things that we keep learning over and over again is that these cheap knives and these cheap steels, your CR series, your 440 stuff like that, they'll hold up to a hell of a lot more than you think they will. Like, you wouldn't think a $6 knife would hold up to 3 hours and 45 minutes of just slicing cardboard nonstop and still have a decent edge. Like, the edge it had on it is better than the factory edge on some knives that I got after that 3 hours and 45 minutes. And, like, I could use that edge for work and everything else for a good while and be all right. I've gotten spoiled by really sharp knives, so I definitely notice it, but it would still do the job. And like, I keep getting surprised by it, but my expectations and reality are slowly getting closer and closer together. I expected to need to strop it at about the 3 hour mark. Just getting to the point where I wanted to strop it at 3 hours and 45 minutes is a little impressive, especially for something like this. And I am entirely sure this is a clone of something, and I don't know what it's a clone of. But we had to buy this knife 3 different times to get the one that we expected. What we were looking for, and let's flick the bean. Was an assisted opener. That's what we expected. We got one that had a nail nick and it was a slip joint. That got sent back. And that one had fake lugs right here, but it still had the Browning logo, still had the same Browning on here. It was just a totally different design. Then we had the next one come in, same Browning logo. Let's flick the bean again. Same Browning logo, same lugs, same everything, but there was no lock on it whatsoever. There was a spot where the lock was supposed to be that was just solid plastic. There was no detent. There was no nothing. It just flopped open and closed freely. So, we got this on the 3rd try. And I mean, that's just Temu for you. One thing that's also worth mentioning is the centering on this blade is not good. It's not well centered. And something else we found out, and I hope the camera picks this up, but like, you can really squeeze these to the point where the liner lock is touching the other liner. This thing is definitely cheap, cheap, cheap. But the blade steel, apparently adequate. So, I wanted to share this experience with you guys, do my follow-up like we've been doing after the live streams, let you know what you missed out on, and what the end result was. And, I mean, this thing exceeded expectations, and I thought my expectations were pretty realistic. So, yeah, unless you're in a hard-use environment and you're wailing on them, your blade steel almost doesn't matter. Like, the only time you need a super steel is when you're going in on something crazy and, like, your use on these knives is crazy and abusive as hell. And it makes me not feel as bad that I can't afford to buy a Magna Cut. I can't afford to buy, like, I can get S35VN because Cold Steel's making them affordable and a ton of them. S30V. That's a little out of reach because it's on expensive knives, stuff like that. But I'm not a hard user. I carry my knives to work. I work in a grocery store. It's not an abusive environment. I'm probably not going to be in another abusive environment for a long time. So for my purposes, these things don't matter. And molecularly, there's not much separating most of these budget steels. Up until you get past 9CR into nicer stuff, there's not a lot separating them. So, I mean, if you take anything away from this, it's 9CR, 7CR, 5CR. Unless you're in a rough environment, it's going to get you where you want to go. That makes the budget knives a lot more appealing. Now this thing definitely falls into cheap and not budget. It's not because of the blade steel. It's because literally everything else about this knife. Your pocket clip, that's not the strongest thing in the world. I shouldn't be able to flex it that far with just my thumb tip. The liner lock is okay. It centers up pretty well on the blade itself. But, you got the bad centering and you got the frame here that just, that is ridiculously bad. And people complain about the OG bug out. So that's this thing. That's the experience with it. That's what it was capable of. But, all that being said, thanks for looking at my crap. Subscribers, y'all keep showing up. A new batch just popped up today. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to see you guys come in. We're getting closer to 1,000 and that 1,000 subscriber giveaway. And if you weren't on the live stream, you missed it. I actually showed the live stream what the giveaway knife is and what's coming with it. So pop in for the live streams. You'll see some interesting stuff sometimes. But all that being said, y'all have a nice day.